How to use mathematical reasoning to distinguish between a stock market genius and a fraud. Why are children short despite having tall parents? What strategies can help you win the lottery? Do poll results truly represent people's will? Today, I will explain how not to be wrong, the hidden maths of everyday life. This book is about 480 pages. I will spend about 20 minutes summarizing the essence of it. How to use mathematical thinking to look at and analyze specific situations in our daily lives. In the age of big data, it is crucial to learn how to harness the power of mathematical thinking. Before diving into the book, ask yourself, are you a person with math anxiety? Do formulas and charts make your head hurt? Did you fail advanced mathematics in college? If this describes you, you might never have imagined that you could love math. The issue between you and math doesn't lie in math itself, but in the way it's taught. In school, math often seems like a set of boring rules, laws, and axioms. Every example seems to involve balls hitting each other or two water pipes filling a swimming pool. However, this interesting book shows us that math is very engaging and relevant to everything we do. For instance, what little mathematical tricks do so-called stock market experts use? How can probability analysis help determine whether to buy a lottery ticket? What mathematical relationship exists between parents and children's heights? Also, how can we use math to interpret foreign elections and terrorist attacks reported in the news? This book uses mathematical methods to analyze and solve many everyday life problems, helping us understand that with mathematical tools, we can see things more clearly and find them more interesting. The author of this book is Professor Jordan Ellenberg, a math professor at the University of Wisconsin. Besides teaching, he gives lectures worldwide, promoting fascinating and not boring mathematics. In 2013, he gave a keynote speech at the largest math conference in the world, the Joint Mathematics Meetings, introducing his in-depth but approachable number theory research. His work has garnered widespread attention, with Bill Gates being one of his readers. Let's learn or relearn 5 math-related concepts using Professor Ellenberg's engaging examples and methods. Linearity, reasoning, regression, existence, and expectation. Part 1. Linearity. First, let's discuss linearity. Simply put, linearity refers to a functional relationship between two variables, such as direct or inverse proportionality. The most common application is the statistical method of linear regression, which uses regression analysis in mathematical statistics to determine the relationship between two or more variables. This method is especially common when analyzing big data. However, there are many instances of misuse, which can mislead people, particularly in some news reports. For example, whenever a disaster occurs, newspapers often present terrifying numerical analyses. A counterterrorism expert at the University of London once said in a newspaper, in late October 2005, terrorist attacks killed 1,074 Israelis and injured 7,520. For a small country like Israel, these numbers are already staggering. Converted proportionally, this equates to 50,000 Americans dead and 300,000 Americans injured. Does this description sound terrifying? How is it calculated? It was done by converting population percentages. The number of Israeli casualties was divided by Israel's total population to get a ratio, which was then multiplied by the U.S. population to get the frightening numbers above. Politically, This kind of expression helps stir strong public emotions to push for certain legislation. But mathematically, is this method reliable? The answer is no. This is a classic example of misusing linear regression, considering only simple numerical ratios and ignoring other factors in complex events. The author calls this crude linear regression. To illustrate the fallacy of this method, the author gives another example. American writer Mark Twain, who once worked as a sailor on the Mississippi River and wrote Life on the Mississippi, where he wrote, 176 years ago, the lower Mississippi River between Cairo and New Orleans was 1,215 miles long. After straightening, it became 1,180 miles long. Later, it was straightened to 1,040 miles at the Gulf of Mexico, and then shortened by another 67 miles. In 176 years, the lower Mississippi River shortened by 242 miles, averaging 1 1/3 miles per year. So, it's easy to predict that in another 742 years, the lower Mississippi River will be less than 2 miles long. Mark Twain used linear regression to conclude that the lower Mississippi River would keep shrinking, which seems reasonable. But is it true? We know that the lower Mississippi River hasn't disappeared before our eyes. It even occasionally gets longer due to rainy seasons and new channels. So, what's the problem? The problem is that Mark Twain used typical, thoughtless linear regression, considering only superficial reasons without considering geography, climate, surface evolution, and other factors, leading to seemingly plausible but incorrect conclusions. This tells us that whether it's terrorism or geographical and geological issues, there are a series of complex reasons behind them. We can't understand them by simply applying a linear relationship formula. Moreover, considering such problems using different numerical relationships can lead to vastly different conclusions. Let's use terrorism as an example. In 2004, Spain experienced the 3/11 Madrid train bombings, with nearly 200 people killed. What if this happened in New York? Using Spain and the US's total populations, the US population is about 7 times Spain's, so about 1,300 people would die in New York. But if we compare Madrid's population to New York's, this number becomes 463. And if we compare Madrid province and New York State's populations, the conclusion is 600. Each number is different. In mathematics, there's a principle for verifying correctness. If different methods of calculation yield different results, our method is flawed. In other words, dealing with such complex issues isn't suitable for linear regression analysis. This mathematically tells us that the simple application of linear regression sounds reliable but essentially oversimplifies complex problems, often leading to incorrect conclusions. So, when you hear so-called experts discussing statistical data, especially those derived from linear regression, remember, not all lines are straight, and not all data reveal the truth. Part 2. Mathematical reasoning. Next, let's discuss mathematical reasoning. Here, we'll look at a story about a Baltimore stockbroker. The story goes like this. One day, you receive a letter from a stockbroker in Baltimore suggesting you buy a certain stock because he predicts it will rise next week. You don't take it seriously, but the stock does rise the following week. Soon, you receive another letter from the stockbroker predicting another stock will fall next week. This prediction also comes true. For 10 consecutive weeks, the stockbroker sends you letters predicting stock movements, all accurate. Finally, he suggests a long-term partnership, asking you to invest your money with him. What would you decide? Let's use math. According to probability theory, even a stock market novice has a 50% chance of making a correct prediction. The probability of making 10 consecutive correct predictions is 1/1024. Given such low odds, this stockbroker seems like a genius, making you likely to trust him with your money. But wait, let's uncover his secret. In the first week, the stockbroker sends out 10,240 emails. Half, Group A, predicting a stock rise, and half, Group B, predicting a fall. After the stock rises, he discards Group B and continues sending emails to Group A, splitting them again with new predictions. This process repeats weekly, each time eliminating half. After 10 weeks, 10 lucky recipients have received 10 correct predictions and naturally believe the stockbroker is a genius, ready to invest with him. In today's world of copy-pasting and mass emailing, this trick is even easier, yet many still fall for it. In 2008, the BBC had a reality show where a magician used this method to send betting tips to thousands of Brits, eventually convincing some of his supposed superpowers. This trick works because it's not outright deceit. It uses real information to lead you to the wrong conclusion. When doing mathematical reasoning, remember this story. Be very cautious with big data analysis. The same observation can lead to multiple possible causes. It's not the truth of the matter that misleads us, but whether we miss certain assumptions during reasoning. Aristotle once said, "The impossible happens." He didn't have the concept of probability, but understanding this principle helps you avoid being lured by the Baltimore stockbroker, as you'll realize that low-probability events like 10 consecutive correct predictions can occur with a large enough sample. Part 3. Regression. Let's discuss the next issue. Regression, starting with children's heights. Have you noticed that after a store experiences rapid growth for 10 years, it often returns to mediocrity? Or that the children of exceptionally intelligent parents are often average? What's the reason behind this? Various factors can be considered: business strategies, education, opportunities, or changing times. Mathematically, this phenomenon perfectly illustrates the concept of regression to the mean. This concept means that if a subject is influenced by randomness, it will tend to regress to the mean. This theory was first discovered by 19th-century British scientist Francis Galton, a curious mathematician. He aimed to quantify inheritance, starting with father-child height, as it's relatively easy to collect. He created a scatter plot with the horizontal axis representing children's heights and the vertical axis representing fathers. Each father-child pair was it. After collecting much data, he discovered a scatter plot. Assume children's heights entirely depend on their fathers. The plot would be a straight line. If unrelated, it would be a random scatter of dots. In reality, Galton found a scatter plot, an elliptical shape centered around the average heights of both parents and children. This indicates that regardless of parents' heights, children's heights tend to average out, illustrating regression to the mean. In his 1889 book, Natural Inheritance, he summarized, "From an overall perspective, adult children's heights are closer to the average compared to their parents." So, if you're very short, don't worry. Your offspring are likely to be of average height. Does this mean genetics don't affect us? Galton found that genetics do influence us through the correlation function. Galton's ellipse varies in fatness. A high eccentricity means a strong genetic influence, making the ellipse fat and reducing the effect of regression to the mean. Conversely, low eccentricity means a more significant effect of regression to the mean. Galton called this quantity the correlation function. He concluded that intelligence also follows this pattern. No matter how high parents' IQs are, their descendants can't remain exceptionally intelligent forever. They will regress to the mean and become average. This theory was later confirmed by big data analysis, showing that almost anything that changes over time in life is subject to regression effects. Now you understand why a writer's second novel is often less popular after a successful debut. It's not solely because most artists are one-hit wonders, but because their success is a combination of talent and luck, influenced by regression to the mean. The extent of this influence depends on the correlation between talent and luck. Part 4. Public opinion. We generally believe that a good government should listen to the people's voices and respect their will. How do we know what people want? Usually through opinion polls. However, in practice, it's often not so simple. For instance, in a poll on how to address the government deficit, the results were: 1/3 favored raising taxes without cutting government spending, 1/3 favored cutting defense spending, and the remaining 1/3 favored cutting healthcare benefits. This creates a contradictory outcome. 2/3 support cutting spending, but 2/3 also oppose cutting defense spending, and 2/3 oppose cutting healthcare benefits. Satisfying any group means abandoning a larger one. Each voter's political stance is rational and logical, but combining all stances results in chaos. The principle of majority rule is straightforward and seemingly fair, but it only works best when there are two options. With more than two options, the majority's preferences become contradictory. Or, more accurately, public opinion doesn't truly exist. Only when a majority agrees does public opinion exist. So, how should a government official perform their duties? Simple. Since the public hasn't reached a consensus, officials can act independently. If you're an average politician, you'd find contradictory poll data frustrating. But if you're a good politician, you'd say, "People elected me to perform my duties, not to study poll data." If you're a great politician, you'd think of ways to utilize the inconsistent poll data. Returning to the earlier example, you could tell the public, "I promise you won't pay a cent more in taxes. I'll provide the city with essential services and high-quality public services without spending extra taxpayer money." This strategy is clear. You didn't choose any group but excluded one option, increasing taxes. Immediately, you'd have 2/3 of the public support. This is how to follow public opinion. Part 5. The lottery. Finally, let's talk about the lottery. Is it worth buying lottery tickets? The smart answer is no. As the saying goes, the lottery is a tax on fools. Yet people still eagerly line up at convenience stores to buy tickets. Why? Because buying lottery tickets is gambling, and everyone wants to win big with a small investment. Adam Smith was also a lottery opponent. In The Wealth of Nations, he wrote, "The fact that the government makes money from lotteries tells us that people overestimate the odds of winning. We've never seen a completely fair lottery, nor will we, because such a lottery wouldn't offer any profit opportunities for the issuer." Smith's statement is clear and powerful, but we shouldn't blindly trust him because, strictly speaking, his conclusion isn't complete and is based on empirical analysis. Let's use math to analyze the lottery. Each lottery's purchase value and prize value differ. The purchase value is the cost of buying a ticket, and the prize value is the actual value considering probability, expressed as the expected value. The expected value is calculated by multiplying the probability of each outcome by its corresponding prize value. Assume a lottery has 10 million possible combinations, only one of which wins. Each ticket costs $1, with a prize pool of $6 million. The expected value is calculated as follows. The value of 9,999,999 outcomes is 0, while the value of one outcome is $6 million. The expected value is the probability of the outcome, 1 in 10 million, multiplied by the prize value, $6 million, resulting in 60 cents. This is the lottery's prize value. You spend $1 to buy a ticket worth 60 cents. Now you understand Smith's statement. Spending $1 to buy a 60 cents item is unwise, and the lottery issuer always profits. The larger the issuance, the more they earn. However, based on expected value calculations, there may be lotteries where the expected value exceeds the purchase value. This happened in 2004. Massachusetts decided to revitalize its lottery industry by designing a new lottery. This lottery increased small prizes and introduced a mechanism where if no one claimed the jackpot within a week and the prize pool exceeded $2 million, the jackpot would be redistributed, increasing smaller prizes. This mechanism rapidly increased the expected value to $5.53, while each ticket was sold for $2. This was a windfall. MIT students first discovered this loophole, forming a group to buy 1,000 tickets, tripling their investment. A retired math teacher then formed a 70-person team to buy 60,000 tickets, earning over $50,000. Dr. Zhang from Northeastern University made even more, eventually leaving medical research to focus on gambling in 2006. The Massachusetts Lottery Commission finally realized this in 2012 and canceled the lottery. But in those 7 years, the MIT student team profited over $3.5 million. In conclusion, this is the main content of How Not to Be Wrong, the hidden maths of everyday life. To summarize, this book shows us that mathematical thinking is fascinating. It helps us think better, sharpens our intuition, and provides deeper insights into the essence of things, preventing us from getting lost in a bewildering world. When illustrating the charm of math, we mainly focused on specific examples, discussing why linear analysis isn't suitable for complex scenarios. The reasoning principles of the Baltimore stockbroker. The regression to the mean in children's height, using probability to respond to public opinion. And the expected value of lottery tickets. Remember, math isn't just about boring formulas or equations. Mathematical principles can solve many real-world problems, revealing the wisdom and joy of math. That's the essence of this book. The original book link is attached at the end for further reading. You can also click the share button below the video to share this book with your friends. Congratulations, you've just finished another book.